These past 2 months have brought quite an enlightenment to me about Steve Valyo. My dealings with him have always brought to mind the words irascible, curmudgeonly, impossible to please. It seems that I may have been mistaken. The comments people have made to him and about him, the gatherings we have had to celebrate his tenure at Malvern, the concerns expressed about how we will manage this departure have caused me to rethink what I wanted to say. I had many examples of the words and phrases above, but now I must make a 180-degree turn, an about-face for people like me who are not geometrically inclined. Many of you may know that we share the same birthday. That's right, brothers from different mothers. It helped create the bond we have had all these years. In fact, we joked about a plan to walk out together, side by side. I guess God had a pretty good laugh about that one. Faculty, staff, and kids always knew when Steve was happy or not so. I think he is lucky that his game is golf and not poker. Many of us have dealt with parts of days when Steve is not happy, was the watch phrase. But we always knew what the issue was and moved to deal with it. Students especially knew when Steve was angry with their lack of effort. By the way, Steve had, well, still has, a way of making not just his face, but his entire head turn red with displeasure or frustration. It builds up and just... Luckily, I had to deal with it only a few times over the years. But when a student performed well and got it, there was no one happier than Steve was, and the glow was obvious to his students, and to us, I might add. One fond memory I have is of a few years ago when we were required to schlep some desks from Joe Oshley's classroom to the rooms we were using for some Saturday morning SAT prep sessions. Boy, could he grumble with discontent. But he always brought the bagels, and he usually had his clubs in the back of the car. My other memory is of one of our many good cop, bad cop meetings. He always wanted to be the bad cop. And he was very good at it. It was with a mom and her son, and in an attempt to motivate her son, she referred, hypothetically of course, to Steve having the personality of a brick wall. I saw the color begin to rise in his neck, and I was fearful for our safety. But Steve kept control as we finished the meeting. But I think maintenance may have had a golf ball size hole to fix in his office the next morning. Now, not really, but I just couldn't get away from the image, Steve. And he now has a self-portrait to commemorate that meeting. Steve has always had an open door policy with students and colleagues, and I always felt that I could interrupt him, knowing that he would give me 100% of his attention and always let me know how he thought and felt about a subject. And there was no subject I ever felt uncomfortable talking to him about. I am sure many have that same memory. With Steve's departure, we lose an alumnus who remembers names, probably as well as Fran Kenny and Stu can. He will be greatly missed on campus when those alums return to say hello. They all know that he was completely honest and genuine with them and was their best advocate. We lose a teacher who loved what he taught and who he taught. Whom he taught. I just realized grammar. Well, it may have been a little harder with 1 or 2 courses and 1 or 2 students, but he never stopped trying. I can remember many days, as Stu said, when there were 1, 2, or 3 students in his office before school, during lunches, after school, going over math concepts and/or specific problems. He loves teaching and students, and I reminded him, I'm sure many of us did, often about how good he was at it. We lose an administrator who, while always keeping in mind the good of the school, also always kept in mind how we could keep our best people and teachers with us to keep Malvern great. We lose a colleague who enjoys the company of others and can talk golf, what a surprise, football, basketball, just about any sport, math, science, history, language, computers, art, music, English. Well, maybe not always English. Just kidding, Steve. You are, in fact, very good at writing, at speaking, from the heart. But mostly, we lose a friend, someone who genuinely cared for us, listened to us, fought for us, always. The loss will not be fully felt until later, but make no mistake, Malvern will feel it. I thank you, Steve, for all you have been to me and for me, and we all thank you for what you have been to us and to Malvern Preparatory School. We only wish we had 34 more years to work with you. Thank you.